Well, hi. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. All right, if you have a life changing announcement that you want to make, wait until tomorrow. You could probably figure out why. Also, today's a very special day because my grandmother, Mary Rose Brown of Iowa Falls, Iowa, is turning 100 years old today. And are thrilled to be able to celebrate that. And it's been, she has some wonderful stories and is very good at telling them. And I mean that she's very articulate and can put a story together very, very well. And I've always enjoyed listening to her talk about the way things used to be and also just family history. And it's been a real pleasure being her grandson. And I get to still have a grandmother, even at my age. So very thankful and happy birthday, Grandma. Glad that we can help you celebrate 100 years today. Also coming up today, we are going to talk a little politics, and we have Jo Mentzer in studio today. She is a candidate for Iowa House District 15, which covers part of Pottawatomie County and an awful lot of Harrison County. And Mary Jo has some things she's very passionate about and some things that she's trying to draw attention to. And she brought a lot of paperwork. I can show you right here. This is all of the different stuff that she brought in to be able to talk about issues that have to do with water contamination and property taxes and things like that. And she is running for District 15 for the Iowa House. And she will be joining us today to fill us in about her position and her platform. So Jo Mentzer is our guest today on Morning Coffee. Morning Coffee is brought to you by Keith Jones, your Edward Jones financial advisor in Council Bluffs. Learn how he can help you reach your financial goals. Visit edwardjones.com for more. Edward Jones, member SIPC. And if you have a leak, a clogged drain, or if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered with fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. Locally owned and trusted, and take pride in doing the job right the first time. So, residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, give them a call. WaldsteinPlumbing.com is the website. Here in the studios on Willow, we are welcoming in another political candidate. This is Jo Mentzer from Logan, and she is running for Iowa House in District 15. And Jo, you're running as an independent, correct?
That is correct. I am running as an independent.
Is there a reason behind the independent part?
Yes, there is. I reached out to my local party head, chairperson, and found out that they were a co-chair. And actually in Harrison County, both chairs for the Democratic and the Republican Party are candidates. So when I reached out to the chair that I was told to reach out to, I did not get a response. I tried a few different times, and then I came to the conclusion that I would not get the support of my party because it was apparent maybe they had found a candidate, and I went in and signed up as an independent and decided to move forward.
There's something that happening, obviously, that you were very passionate about, and it could be more than one issue that said, you know what, even though I don't feel I can go the traditional party route, I still need to run.
Right.
So talk about that a little bit.
So actually, there's a couple of issues that I am extremely passionate about. The first one is property taxes. We're overassessed. And what that means is people's home values are higher than what they can sell their homes for in a lot of cases. I have a background in real estate, very strong background. Mm-hmm. Former broker in Nebraska, inactive broker in Iowa, real estate educator across 3 states. So I feel like I have a strong background to judge that. Okay. And when we purchased our home in November of 2024, my understanding of Iowa code is our homes are to be assessed at 100% value. And that is determined between a buyer and a seller. It even states that.
So whatever the buyer is willing to pay for the house, that is the value of the house.
That is
Okay.
correct. And unless you purchase the house from a relative or the home is a foreclosure.
Okay. That makes sense.
Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
So we purchased our home and we got our assessment within weeks for $80,000 higher than what we paid for the home. And I called the assessor's office. I thought for sure there must have been a mistake. And she said no. I invited the assessor to my home so she could preview the home because at that point I had been told by the assessor, and then the auditor also made an off-the-cuff comment to me that our home was a foreclosure home. I've been in real estate, as I said, for a long time. It was not a short sale. It was not a foreclosure. It was not in any kind of financial duress that was disclosed to me. So I decided that I was going to file with the Board of Reviews, which is the board that you can go before to have them take a look at your taxes and plead your case. I prepared a current market analysis of the homes in my neighborhood. Some that are the same age as mine within the circumference, within my neighborhood.
Right. Yeah.
And with their like properties, they were ranches and they had similar amounts of bathrooms, bedrooms, and etc. And showed that their properties were not assessed as high as mine, and asked for a reduction for the purchase price. I did not ask for anything lower, just the purchase price, 100% value. And it was denied by the county. So then I proceeded to file with the PAAB board in Des Moines. It is also a board of review. And I was told that they would probably have my case set before them in October of 2025.
And when was this that you'd had the conversation with them?
So we filed with Harrison County as soon as we could, and we set before Harrison County. I believe it was in March or April of 2025.
Okay.
And then we were not happy with that. We found out we could file with the PAAB board in Des Moines. We had a deadline on that, met the deadline, expected to set before the PAAB board last fall, October, maybe November, because I spoke with I think it was the attorney there.
Okay.
And he indicated that they typically only see about 300 people go before the PAAB board in Des Moines a year. And last year, they had over 1,000 in the state of Iowa file complaints about their property taxes. So I filed, and it is now the end of March. Next week's going to be April 1st, and we still do not have a PAAB board date. The county hired a power attorney with my tax dollars to fight against us. And they have, I would say they've sent 3 depositions. They're all different. The PAB board is saying that we have to try to negotiate this with the attorney instead of going before the board, which is what the state of Iowa has in place. So I feel like our state government keeps talking about improvements with property taxes, and this is what needs to be done. The assessments need to be real assessments, not assessments based on budgets.
And that's what you feel is happening.
That
now.
is what I feel like is happening now, okay? And then the state needs to follow the laws and the codes that they actually already have on the books. I mean, you do not need to reinvent the wheel. 100% of value is just that. And I can see reassessing a property after it's been in ownership for 4 or 5 years. Property values go up and down. Here's the point. Property values also go down.
Yeah, we haven't seen it for a while, but
right.
yeah.
Assessments are not going down.
Right.
They are not ebbing and flowing. And I feel like, in my opinion, the state of Iowa could do a better job in making sure that the taxpayer is represented well by these boards. This is a board that is supposed to be, it should be bipartisan, in my opinion. It should also reflect what its values are. They should be doing what they say they're going to do, which is being unbiased and looking at, my understanding is, I'll back up. My understanding is I have 60 days after they notify me of a date to go before the PAB board to present my case, send in whatever filings I have. And I have, they give me 60 days before the date, and then I have 20 days, I'll correct myself, before that date to get my information there. Right now, the PAB board is telling me I have to work with an attorney for the county instead of hearing my case.
I do see your point that they have passed this on
right
to someone else
whose interests are not unbiased. The attorney's interest is the best interest of the county and enforcing the assessed value. The attorney's interest is not in my interest. The county hired the attorney to plead their case.
As this sits right now, and I'm asking because I honestly don't know, is the board allowed to take that road based on how the tax laws are currently written in Iowa?
They're saying they are, but I haven't read anything that would make me believe that the path of the PAB board is not what they should be following. When I read it, it says, I'll back up. I got a letter from them, and they said that they were citing case study, but the case study they were citing about boards being able to do that was not reflective of this particular board. They were kind of all over the place on their case study, So,
as you have been obviously talking about this issue, and folks have been hearing, are you hearing any similar stories from other people?
So there are other people in Harrison County besides myself that have taken this to the next step, past the Board of Reviews in Harrison County to the PAB board. You have the option to hire an attorney. I don't know if I will regret not hiring an attorney, but since this is supposed to be an unbiased board and you're supposed to be able to go and present your numbers and explain to them why you think that your assessment is higher than it should be, just based on Iowa code alone and the 100%, I personally believe that I have a fair and valid point. I don't believe I should have to pay $350 more or less to an attorney to talk to another attorney and drag this out and possibly bring it into court. I want to go straight to the PAB board. And that should be something any taxpayer in the state of Iowa should be able to do. It should not be a complicated process. You take your facts, you send them to the PAB board. The PAB board then can share those facts with the other side. You sit down at the table and negotiate. And then they make a determination on what they think your assessment should or should not be. It should be that simple. But it has become convoluted because the state of Iowa has made it that way. Kim Reynolds wants to fix property taxes. She just needs to look at what's on the books and follow that.
So a lot of your position then, as I'm hearing it, is that we already have the laws that
Correct.
we need. We just need to
Enforce
get them back up to the top of the pot, if you will.
Right.
That's
That's
cooking,
exactly right.
So people can actually utilize those laws.
You know, what I see happen is people come up with all these really great ideas. We should do this and we should do that. If they would slow down and take the time to go back and look at what's already on the books, both in law and code, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and simplify it, they would have their solution.
So as you are going through this process, at some point you made the decision that you needed to actually get into the political arena in order to, was it just to be heard? I'm wondering what the process was as you were making the decision that this was the route that you wanted to go.
So I started going to the Board of Supervisor meetings because I wanted to understand, what the finances were in the county that was driving these assessments up, and what the Board of Supervisors' position was on the assessments, and kind of try to plead my case to them in my 3 minutes at the end of every meeting. And while I was sitting in the meeting, another topic came up. So on March 21st of last year, the Army Corps comes to Missouri Valley, Iowa every year, and they give a presentation on the Offutt missile site. It's a decommissioned missile site that was in Missouri Valley, Iowa during the Cold War.
In the city limits, outside the city
It's
limits?
outside the city limits. So the missile site is southeast of Missouri Valley, Iowa. And I was born and raised in Missouri Valley. I knew the missile site was there, but I did not understand that there was contamination at the site, and that the Army Corps had been coming to present to Harrison County. I've heard since 2014. What I have found at the Missouri Valley Public Library, because they have the archives of each meeting there, the earliest I could find was about 2016. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, one of the Board of Supervisors made an off-the-cuff comment that there was TCE, trichloroethylene, in the aquifer, and that was what the contamination was, and made an off-the-cuff comment, this wouldn't be a problem if it would just get to the Boyer River, and the Boyer River would then bring it down to the Missouri River, and it would float away. And my son is an environmental science major. My son-in-law is an environmental engineer who studies water. And I just sat in the chair, my heart kind of sank, and I was like, what are they talking about? Then the meeting started, and because I'd never heard anything about this. The meeting started, and the third Board of Supervisor who was at the meeting came in with these pamphlets. The other two board members didn't want a pamphlet. When she left the meeting, I said, hey, nobody wants that extra pamphlet. Could I have it? And she said, yeah. And I went home and I'm reading about, what is going on. And it's stating there's 289 acres in Harrison County, Iowa that are contaminated with this TCE. And in the back of the book was the contact information for the Army Corps project manager and the contact information for the DNR. He's the geologist for the DNR that's assigned to that project.
Now, the contamination coming from what is at the missile site where a missile used to be but is no longer.
That is correct.
Okay.
The missiles are gone. It was decommissioned in 1964, the year before I was born. And after that, it was, I'm not 100% of the date. I think it was around 1970 is when Iowa Western bought it on a quit claim deed. It's sometime in that era, and for $1, I heard. And then about 20-ish years later, maybe a little more, give or take, they sold it to a land developer. The land developer went in, he bought it on an auction for about, let's see, what they tell me, $750,000, so $750,000. The developer bought it. It was disclosed to him that there was a missile site there, and they had gone in and taken out the, I guess you would say, skeleton, the buildings and infrastructure. And so he had that information. He did not have the information of the contamination. And
so the developer had no idea
right,
that
the
what
developer,
he was buying was contaminated.
That is correct. So he purchases the land, he puts in the infrastructure, spends another $750,000. So he now has about $1.5 million to $2 million in it. Has spec houses in there. It starts developing the property. Corps comes in and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. We think there might be contamination there. So that resulted in the Corps assigning a project manager. They start doing testing. They're doing groundwater testing. They test the wells and the aquifer. They also test the soil. And they've all tested for TCE, but it's kind of sporadic. One person might have it, one person might not. The problem with the testing, in my opinion, is not every well is tested.
It's just been kind of spot checked so far?
Yeah, kind of spot checked.
Okay.
So that's a good way to put it. So over the course of time, the TCE that's in the aquifer has started growing outside of the area through the plume. It's moved. I wouldn't say grown, but it keeps moving.
Just kind of spread out, and
right.
It's finding its way.
Yeah, the plume has little fingers, and it's going this way and that way. But one of the things that's pulling it through the plume is when people drill wells, it's like a siphon. This is what's been explained to me. And it pulls it up through the aquifer, and then, a little further, and then the next well, and it'll pull it a little further. So the more development there is in that area, the further that TC keeps getting pulled through.
We should probably mention, as you're talking about this, what TCE does for those that are exposed to it.
So TCE is believed to be a T-cell carcinogen. It causes cancer. It causes neurological disorders. It is believed to impact embryos in children under 5. So miscarriages, hard to conceive, those types of things, to simplify it. One of the things that I'm learning is the patterns of the cancer due to exposure to the TCE. So I'll give an example. On 315th Street in Missouri Valley, Iowa, which is about, 2.5 miles roughly from where the missile base sits. So it has moved quite a little ways. Okay. There are about 5 homes and 8 cases of cancer. I'm not 100%, but my understanding is one person in every one of those homes has skin cancer from presumably washing in the TCE, but there has been I want to totally disclose, there has been no involvement from public health and no testing done. So there is testing that could be done. They could be testing people's hair follicles or fingernails to see if they have TCE in their system, which would be helpful in being proactive for these folks on getting, if you test for the carcinogen in people's system, you can then look and see if they are more susceptible to cancer. There's genetic tests and all kinds of testing for cancer right now. But if you keep putting your head in a hole and ignoring the problem, which is what is happening.
You live near Logan. How did something outside of Missouri Valley get on your radar?
I live 2.5 miles from a hot well.
Explain what that means.
A hot well is 5 parts per billion in the state of Iowa, meaning that's the threshold Iowa has set for the danger level of TCE. Okay. If I lived in Minnesota, it would be different. It would be 2 parts per billion. So it's not consistent nationally. It goes state to state. If I lived in Canada, it's less than 1. So it's a carcinogen that if you continue to ingest it, bathe in it, put it on your garden and eat it, after a long period of use, it's going to cause health risk.
Any indication as to, you said you're 2.5 miles from this hot well.
Right.
Any indication as to what caused that? Meaning the well that tested. Where did that come from?
So the TCE is moving on down the road.
so coming from the same location.
It's actually all of the hot wells are outside of the missile site. They have moved outside of the missile site now. So, and their Army Corps does have a map out. So they have red wells, which are called hot wells, and they are above the 5 parts per billion. The yellow wells are yield wells, and they're kind of close. And then there are green wells, but even some of the green wells have TCE in them, just at a lower level, a level that the state of Iowa says is okay. If I lived in Minnesota, it wouldn't be okay, but the state of Iowa says it's okay.
Is it possible, and I'm going to ask you a question, I don't know if you know the answer to this or not.
Okay.
Is it possible for TCE to show up in a natural way? Is this a
no? It has to be a chemical.
It has to be something that man-made that was put into an area. So it's not. It cannot naturally occur in nature.
Not my understanding, and I mean I stand to be corrected on that. But what happened was it was a degreaser that they used in the missiles, and so they were just washing it down into the aquifer when they cleaned the missiles. And when they went in and decommissioned the missile site, my understanding, and I have not seen, I've heard a lot of stories that they might have spilled it when they were. At that point in time in our country, we were not as environmentally educated as we are now.
Well, true story.
And so they were just dumping it there at the site to get rid of it, to empty the containers, and it made the problem worse.
I can. Yeah,
I can't say one way or the other, but
you and I are pretty close to the same generation, and I'm sure you remember riding in the car with your parents, and there was trash in the car, and said, "Send it out the window."
Oh yeah,
we used to do that.
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't give it a second thought. Right. You finished your McDonald's and
exactly.
Yeah. My dad smoked at the time. I can remember him flicking the cigarette butt out the window. Would not see that today, would we?
No, not. You might still see it, but you also then you'd see the chance of a fire happening because that's just a lot more prevalent. So as you have been going down this road, and it sounds like the decision to run probably wasn't that long ago.
No, it was not. This was not in the plan, my life plan.
What kind of feedback have you been hearing from people that, as you obviously telling them, you told me you're running, so you've been telling people that you're running. So what kind of feedback have you been getting?
I have been getting great support. And I've been getting support from Democrats and Republicans. Last fall, I started door knocking I wanted to see what kind of support I would get, and I went to several different communities in Harrison County. I want to be clear. This is my district is Harrison County and part of Pottawatomie
Yeah.
County. And
I know the districts they're strangely
it's,
drawn.
yeah,
It's
it needs some attention.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that. It needs attention. And so as I've been door knocking, I'm finding people that are very frustrated with the current party in power, which was my previous party. Okay. And I'm hearing, strangely, when I ask people what they're frustrated about, people are frustrated about their water in all of these communities. Water is like the number one thing as I am door knocking and I say, what do you think needs to happen in the state of Iowa? I am hearing about water. I heard about water in Dunlap, Iowa. I heard a lot about water in Modell, Iowa. Apparently, they've had a lot of problems with water. Missouri Valley, Iowa has had problems with water. I don't think there's a community I haven't been to, a door I haven't knocked on, that they want to know what you're running on. And I say property taxes, I say water issues, cancer rates. And water is like the number one thing people want to talk about. I think it's because it's something we need to survive.
And a lot of smaller communities, their water systems, and I'm not speaking about anybody specifically,
Right.
but in a lot of times, the water system's kind of antiquated and should have been updated a long time ago. I've talked many times on this show that I grew up in Northwest Iowa. In the little town that I grew up there, several years ago, I went to paint my mother's house, and I had to power wash before. And we had to let the city know because they had to turn the pump on for the town to make it so it was even possible for me to power wash. And it's not as if it was pumping that much water through. This power washer wasn't sending out that much water, per minute. So just that, and that's the tiny little town that I grew up in. I know that other small towns too, that it takes a lot of money to maintain these things, and they just don't have it.
These communities are getting crushed. They are getting crushed. I think the thing that is frustrating is getting back to property taxes is even once your home's paid off, your property tax is like having a second mortgage on your home right now. And then what do you get for it? Really, what are you getting for it? Our roads need attention. Our water systems need attention. God bless the farmers. They get blamed for all of this cancer stuff. And while I think there could be better farming practices, my son has been in farming for the last over 10 years. While I believe we could have better practices in agriculture, there are other contributing factors to the toxicity in our water systems. I truly believe that. And the A and B, like you're saying, these systems need updated. So just like anything, if you don't do the maintenance and you don't, there's some icky stuff in those pipes and some bacteria.
Some of the pipes that have been around for a while.
Yeah.
There's because, well, we have it here. The studios that we're sitting in right now are in Council Bluffs, and a good friend of mine and also a client has a plumbing business, and he talks about, some of these things are 100 years old and have been buried in the ground for that long, and the codes back then were completely different than what
they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a debacle. I look at what happens we have two legislative branches in Iowa, our Iowa House and our Iowa Senate. They seem to get in the weeds on things that maybe shouldn't be a priority in legislation. We really need to get down to doing a better job with our budgets. I do not think Kim Reynolds' idea of Doge was the worst idea I have ever heard. I just think the way she went about it and the presentation of it could have been better. In today's world with technology, there are things we could do to eliminate cost. Like how many people go in and pay their property taxes or go in physically and get their driver's license renewed. A lot of people just do it online. So if we could figure out ways to streamline some of that, it would be a cost savings to the public and hopefully bring those taxes down. If they're not going to bring the taxes down and they're going to continue to rise, at the very least, then they should look at their budgets and say, okay, this is a project our community needs to champion. And why none of these communities are championing the water issue is beyond me, because if they would go out and door knock and talk to their constituents, they would find out water is like a top issue with people.
I haven't heard that from anybody that I've talked to. So yeah, I get. No, I'm saying that from the other folks that have come through sitting in this chair or in a different studio,
Yep.
Water's not something that comes up a lot.
It is crazy to me.
And I know that it's a big issue for other places around the country too. It's things have been shifting a little bit. There's some folks in South Central Colorado that they're in real dire straits with their water. So with what we're having here, and it's common knowledge now that Iowa has is the only state that is seeing an increase in growth of cancer.
Oh, yeah, it has been crazy.
Yeah, and we're the only ones. That everybody else is seeing a reduction except for Iowa. And it is a real problem because it has to be being caused by something.
Well, here's where we are in Iowa right now. Iowa is number 2 for cancer. We're number 1 for new cancer. Harrison County, Iowa, the county that I was born and raised and currently have moved back to and live in, is number 5 out of 99 states.
Or 99 counties in Iowa.
I'm sorry, apologize. Counties in Iowa. And so Harrison County's 5th. I guess you got to be known for something. And if you look at how many counties there are in the United States, and we are in the number 2 state for cancer, and we're the number 5th county, I always say if you want to get cancer, move to Harrison County, Iowa, because the probability is, especially since Iowa's number 1 for new cancers, you're going to get it. So there has to be a reason why. There's got to be a common denominator in that. There is agriculture clear across the state of Iowa. There is agriculture in our region. It's in Nebraska. It's in South Dakota, North Dakota, all over our region, there is agriculture. So what is a common denominator besides agriculture that is causing cancer? Well, some people will tell you it's watershed. It's the water's moving towards the Missouri River, and that's why Harrison County is number 5. And I believe that's probably one of the reasons. I believe in that. The second reason is we have a chemical contamination problem in our county that is not being addressed. The county has no documentation that they will commit to putting in any of their reports. The assessor in Harrison County has a statement in the 2025 Harrison County Assessment Report that states that there is no contamination in Harrison County. Now, no contamination is a pretty big statement that they're aware of. No hazardous contamination.
Did they give a reason for making that statement?
No, they have not given a reason. And Harrison County's Board of Supervisors 2 weeks ago passed a comprehensive plan that was prepared by SWPCO for the county. And, what the plan does is it, says, hey, we're going to put housing here, and we're going to have, this is going to be agriculture, and this is going to be industry. So I was at the planning and zoning meeting when the SWPCO representative was there, and I was very clear about the TCE contamination and wanting the TCE identified in the report. And I asked that no wells be dug in that area because that's part of the reason why the TCE contamination's spreading, and I believe the Army Corps and the DNR would agree with me on that because they have sent me documentation to support those opinions. So she left that meeting and walked straight across the hall to the Board of Supervisors meeting and presented her report like she hadn't even heard anything I said. And then the Board of Supervisors asked if there was any public opinions. And of course, I got up and said, I do not want you to pass this comprehensive plan without the TCE being identified in there as a contamination and a problem for a couple of reasons. Not just to pick on the Board of Supervisors or the Planning and Zoning, but if they would identify it in the reports, then possibly we could get grant money or financial assistance to help clean the site up better, help the landowners get money, help people with cancer maybe get some funds. But if you don't identify you have a problem, which Harrison County is not doing, you can't fix a problem. It's like anything. You have to admit there's a problem to find a solution.
Well,
it's one of the steps.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room then when it comes to that. Because if there is a study done and if there is conclusive evidence that all of this exists and it is causing some of this, now people have opened themselves up to lawsuits.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. And,
it is a real thing. It is a real thing. And that's why I have been trying to get the county to admit maybe we need to identify or admit we have a problem and look for solutions. So Harrison County has a really good conservation department. Our administrator of conservation, bright guy. And I reached out to the county and I asked to have a meeting on February 12th. I went before the Board of Supervisors and asked to meet with the Board of Supervisors, the Harrison County Conservation Administrator, the Environmental and Planning and Zoning Administrator, the Public Health Administrator, and the Harrison County Attorney, myself, and a few other individuals who actually live in the contamination area, and sit down and talk about what we need to do to find positive solutions for Harrison County and the individuals who live and endure and deal with this day in and day out. And they told me one of the Board of Supervisors was in favor of the meeting. One of them told me that maybe down the road. And the other one was like, well, I'll look at it, but I'm not going to commit to anything. And I asked again for a meeting. I am not getting a meeting out of them. So they're not looking for solutions.
Well, I can easily see why it is you're running. With these issues that are just it's right in the front of everything that you've been dealing with, and with not getting people to listen in a way that is addressing your concerns, you start looking for solutions. So
we have solutions, I think. And I just real quick would like to state what those are. I think conservation, the state of Iowa and Harrison County, there's so much grant money out there. They could be going out there and buying some of that bare land, and there is a lot of bare land that's for sale, and turning that into conservation. Okay. The next thing, because ideally we would just leave the land alone for like 20 years and let them get the remediation done without putting in a lot of housing and stuff like that. We could use the land for other things. They could put solar farms there. They could put data centers there. I mean, there's things they can do where people don't have to habitate. But my number one idea would be conservation. Second, I would like Harrison County Board of Health to run a couple of clinics and get assistance and get aid from the state and the federal government so they can test and be proactive to fight this potential cancer hazard that might be being caused by the TCE. I think you have to be honest that that is a possibility. In addition, I think they need to put out some literature and some programs about, if you start feeling dizzy or lightheaded or you're vomiting or something like that, it can be a sign of contamination. So public health needs to get involved. I think the assessor department needs to go out there and reassess all those properties. I will tell you just a quick story here. There is an Army vet that reached out to me in October of last year. He had wrote letters to different representatives in the state. He bought land, was going to build his dream home with potentially tunnels to tower in the Purple Heart Association. Okay. He did bomb disposal. So he had been blown up like 14 times. And so they were going to help him build a home. So he buys land out there. And now he has been told he can't put a house there and he can't put a well there because it's too close to a hot well. He did not have a good understanding of what the contamination was and what was happening when he bought it. And so now he is not only not getting a new home, and he has 5 kids, he is having to pay a mortgage in another community, and he's paying taxes on land he may never get to use.
There's a lot going on with all of this, and I think you're probably just getting started.
I am just getting started
with all of the research that you've done, because you showed me some things. These are not opinions that you're talking about. Studies have been done by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, I have hard facts.
Yeah, and shows specifically what's going on with a lot of the wells, and so yeah, this is. Getting people to listen sometimes can be the hardest part.
It comes down to money.
Yeah.
And finances.
Well, quite often. That is unfortunately the case. The fact that you have members of both parties that are talking with you about that speaks volumes, because we live in an environment right now where that's not a common thing. Getting two sides to agree on something is a little more rare than it should be.
There's solutions for every problem. I'm a
I
firm believer.
believe that completely, yeah.
I'm a firm believer there's good solutions for every problem. And to your point, when you start working towards fear and not towards the good solutions, that is when the lawsuits occur. That's just.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Mary Jo, thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming in and filling us in on some of the stuff I didn't know. And again, you showed me the paperwork, and I've seen it. It's from the Army Corps of Engineers. Yeah, this exists.
Yeah,
this is a real thing. So grateful that you took the time to come in and talk. And as I tell anybody that is willing to throw their hat into the ring, well done with that, because it's not an easy thing to do, and to open yourself up to when you're running for office, it can get unpleasant, I think, is a polite way to say it. And I hopefully that stays calmer for you running as an independent.
I don't think it's gonna.
Probably not. But it's just it's a nasty world when it comes to politics, and it's one of the reasons that I have publicly said many times I'll never run for anything, because that's not a world I want to live. I don't want myself to go in there. I don't want my family going into that. But it does take people that are willing to do it, and because we have to have it. So the fact that you're in there and you're willing to
Thank
get into
you.
that fight,
I appreciate that
that's an important thing.
because this is going to get ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no disillusion. People don't want to hear it.
Well, if you have things that you know, then they're important to say. So we're grateful that you came in and said them here.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm not a good politician, but
we need more not good politicians. Good morning. Start with peace of mind at Miners Healthcare. They provide professional in-home support where it matters most, helping individuals maintain comfort, dignity, and independence in their daily lives. Their experienced nursing team focuses on personalized care, clear communication, and supporting families through every step of the process. It is healthcare that's built on trust, compassion, and real relationships. Learn more at minershealthcare.com. And technology should be working for you, not against you. At ThinkSpace IT, they provide expert IT solutions to keep your business running smoothly and securely. From cybersecurity and cloud services to network management and tech support, they simplify IT so you can focus on what matters most. Stay protected, stay connected, stay ahead. Visit ThinkSpaceIT.com. Don't forget about that primary that is coming up in June, and get out and vote and take some time, study the candidates, find out who you feel best represents you. And I think all the candidates that we've talked to so far would agree with that they want everybody to vote and they want you to be informed as you head to the polls. And I can encourage that same thing. That wraps up today's show. My name's Todd Studer. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.